Moving into a new apartment is always a mix of excitement and anxiety, especially when it's in an old building with peeling wallpaper and creaking floorboards. I'd been searching for a place that felt unique, and this one, with its vintage charm, was perfect, at least at first. The rent was surprisingly low, which should have raised red flags, but I was desperate to escape my old life and start fresh. On my first night, as I unpacked boxes, I noticed a small door at the end of the narrow hallway. It was slightly ajar, the paint chipped and faded. I remembered the landlord mentioning the layout but never mentioning this door. My curiosity got the better of me. What could be behind it? I hesitated, my hand hovering over the doorknob. The air felt charged with a strange energy, as if the room behind the door was alive and beckoning. With a deep breath, I pushed it open. Inside, I found a small, dusty room, about the size of a closet, filled with shadows and the smell of mildew. It appeared completely normal at first glance: bare walls, an old wooden floor, and a single window covered in grime. But as I stepped inside, I was struck by an overwhelming sensation of being watched. My skin prickled, and I could swear I heard a whisper. I paused, straining to listen, but the sound faded away, leaving only the silence of the room. I laughed nervously, brushing it off as my imagination. After all, I had just moved in, and it was only my first night. Over the next few days, I couldn't shake the feeling that the room was calling to me. Whenever I walked past it, I felt a magnetic pull, like an invisible thread tugging me closer. The whispers had become more distinct, soft yet haunting, a murmur that seemed to float through the air. I started spending more time in that hidden room, drawn to its mysterious energy, despite the sense of unease creeping over me. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, I entered the room again, compelled by an urge I couldn't resist. The moment I crossed the threshold, the whispers grew louder. They felt like voices woven together, echoing in the back of my mind. "Stay, stay," they urged, a chorus of pleading tones. I shivered but couldn't bring myself to leave. Instead, I wandered deeper into the room, my heart racing. My gaze landed on a small piece of furniture tucked against the wall, a dusty chair that looked like it hadn't been touched in years. Without thinking, I approached it and sat down. As soon as I did, shadows flickered around me, darting in and out of my vision. I tried to focus, hoping to make sense of the whispers. "Who are you?" I called out, my voice trembling slightly. The shadows seemed to respond, swirling around me in a frenzied dance, but I couldn't decipher their meaning. Days turned into weeks, and my obsession with the hidden room deepened. I discovered that previous tenants had mysteriously disappeared without a trace. Whispers echoed through the walls, telling tales of people who had entered and never returned. The realization sent chills down my spine, but I couldn't help but return. Each time I entered the room, the atmosphere grew heavier, the shadows darker. One night, while I was pacing the room, I found an old journal hidden beneath the floorboards. The pages were yellowed and frayed, filled with frantic scrawls. The writer had documented their experiences in the room, describing the same whispers and shadows I'd encountered. They had detailed their descent into obsession, noting how each visit to the room pulled them further from reality. "They call to me," one entry read. "I can't resist. It feels like I belong here. I don't want to leave." The final entry was smeared with what looked like dried blood, the last words barely legible: "Help me." Fear gripped my heart as I realized I was following the same path. The whispers were growing more persistent, urging me to stay, to become one with the shadows. I began to question my own sanity. Was the room truly haunted, or was I losing my mind? One stormy night, the wind howled outside as I huddled in the room, unable to resist its pull. The shadows danced wildly, swirling around me in a chaotic frenzy. "Join us," they whispered, and I felt an overwhelming desire to comply. I stumbled backward, gripping the edge of the chair as I fought against the compulsion. "No!" I shouted, trying to break free from their hold. But it was no use. The darkness consumed me, and I felt myself slipping away. Suddenly, a bright light pierced through the shadows, and the whispers fell silent. I blinked, disoriented, and found myself back in the living room of my apartment, gasping for breath. The room felt empty and lifeless, as if the shadows had retreated to a far corner of my mind. I stared at the hidden door, heart racing. I knew I couldn't go back, not after what I had experienced. But the allure of the room remained strong, a siren's call echoing in my thoughts. I fought against it, determined to break free from its grip. Days passed, and I tried to distance myself from the hidden room, focusing on my work and life outside the apartment. But the whispers never left me. They grew louder at night, invading my dreams, filling my mind with images of fleeting shadows and forgotten souls. Desperate for answers, I began researching the building's history. I discovered that it had once been a boarding house, where tenants had mysteriously vanished over the years. There were rumors of a dark presence lurking within, feeding off the fears and desires of those who entered the hidden room. Each story mirrored my own experience, intensifying my dread. I realized I was not the first to be lured into the room, and the thought of becoming another vanished tenant sent shivers down my spine. One night, unable to escape the pull any longer, I found myself standing in front of the hidden door once more. My heart raced as I reached for the handle, but a part of me hesitated. I wanted to understand the room, to confront whatever lay within. I stepped inside, and the whispers greeted me like old friends. "Welcome back," they echoed, wrapping around me like a warm embrace. The shadows flickered to life, swirling around me in a mesmerizing dance. "Why are you doing this?" I demanded, my voice steady despite the fear gnawing at me. "Join us," they whispered, coaxing me deeper into the room. "You're one of us now." I could feel the weight of their gaze, the longing embedded in each shadow. They were trapped, just like I was, yearning for freedom. In that moment, I understood their plight and the true nature of the room. It was not a place of refuge but a prison, a trap for those who dared to enter. I had to find a way to break free, to escape the cycle of obsession that had ensnared so many before me. "Get out!" I shouted, determination flooding my veins. "I won't let you take me." The shadows hesitated, their movements faltering. I felt the room tremble around me as if it was resisting my defiance. But I refused to back down. With every ounce of strength, I forced myself toward the exit, feeling the shadows claw at my skin, desperate to pull me back. "No!" I screamed, shoving the door open and stepping into the hallway. I stumbled back into the living room, gasping for breath. The whispers faded, replaced by the heavy silence of the apartment. I collapsed against the wall, heart racing, as the weight of the hidden room lifted from my shoulders. I had escaped, but I knew the battle wasn't over. The room would always be a part of me, its whispers lingering in the back of my mind. I had to leave, to find a way to break the connection once and for all. The next day, I packed my belongings, feeling a sense of urgency. I didn't want to be another victim of the hidden room's allure. As I left the apartment, I glanced back at the door, a shiver running down my spine. I knew I was free, but the shadows would always remain, haunting my memories. The hidden room had revealed the darkness within, and I would carry its whispers with me, a reminder of the power of obsession and the struggle for freedom.